In this figure, we're going to look at how the hypothalamus exerts control over posterior pituitary secretion. What we're going to find is that the two are actually sort of intimately linked. Now, what I've done here is I've highlighted the hypothalamus generically with this dark, heavy blue line, right? So the hypothalamus is this neural structure at the base of the brain. It's about the size of an almond, and it sits there, sort of the two walls of the hypothalamus sort of surround the third ventricle, right? And so the third ventricle being a fluid-filled, cerebrospinal fluid-filled space here. Now, we've got our anterior over on this side, right? So the front of the head is over on our left. The back of the head is over on our right. We've got our optic chiasm as a landmark here, right? Where our optic nerves decussate or cross over, or largely cross over. What we find is that we have a variety of neurons, clusters of neurons within the hypothalamus. Those are called the hypothalamic nuclei, sort of regions of cells that produce particular secretions or have particular functions. And here we're showing two of them, right? Here and here. Each sort of primarily secreting one of the two posterior pituitary hormones. And again, when we focus on those, we're going to be looking at oxytocin and vasopressin. Vasopressin is also known as antidiuretic hormone. And what we find, these are two hormones that are released in response to two completely different stimuli. Oxytocin involved in parturition or childbirth, as well as milk letdown, release of milk during lactation and breastfeeding. Whereas antidiuretic hormone, vasopressin, is released in response to hyperosmolarity, like increased concentration, dehydration, as well as low blood pressure as a weaker stimulus. But regardless, those stimuli are input to the hypothalamus to create output from these two separate groups of nuclei, of neurons. Right? And so in the case of a particular stimulus, we're going to get action potentials generated along one of these two sets of neurons. And it's going to result in release of what we would normally say is a neurotransmitter. However, in this case, right, our neurotransmitter, what we would normally call a neurotransmitter, is actually going to be a neurohormone, right? It's a hormone released by a neuron. And it's a hormone because it's being released into a posterior pituitary capillary bed here and ends up going off into the general circulation to initiate those responses. Again, at the breast or the uterus in the female, or ADH at the kidney, right? Oxytocin also acts in males as well, causes contractions of reproductive smooth muscle during sexual activity. So there's a variety of actions of these hormones, but we're more focused on sort of the general pattern here, where we have input from other brain regions and the blood to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus generates output along these bundles of axons, right, that are referred to as the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract, right? A tract being a bundle of axons. The hypothalamo-hypophyseal telling you the sort of the starting point and the ending point. Hypothalamo referring to the hypothalamus. Hypophyseal referring to the hypophysis, which is another name for the pituitary, right? And so the tract is simply the bundle of axons that's sort of carrying the nerve impulses that will result in release of the neurohormones down here at the posterior pituitary, where they end up in systemic blood and having actions on target tissues.